What's up, people? We are live. Back with some live streams. I used to do these for real estate. We had Spotlight series. We had 15 at 5. Now we are doing Rewired Live. Excited to bring this to you. I was kind of messing around with my social media for a long time, figuring out what I wanted to post. I'd post about wholesale. I post about real estate, and I don't really know. But this is the stuff right here that I love talking about: the Built for Impact framework, reprogramming your inner world so you can become the 2.0 version of yourself. This is the stuff I've been studying for, you know, 4 or 5 years. I think I started reading back in COVID. COVID was the first time I started reading. And, I started with some real estate books, but then got into this pretty quickly with um, Joe Dispenza, the Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill stuff, Eckhart Tolle, Michael Singer was huge this year. In January, I drove out to Phoenix, 40 hours in the car. So that's a bagger for sure. 4 days, 10 hours in a row. You're just eating miles. And I listened to all three books back to back to back on the road out to Phoenix. Michael Singer, Untethered Soul, The Surrender Experiment, and Living Untethered. All really, really good about the art of letting go. And really, a lot of those books center around the L pillar in the built framework. Um, and a lot of Joe Dispenza's work, I think, contributes to the I, which is imagine your future, as well as upgrade your operating system. And then there's break limiting beliefs is a lot of books talk about breaking limiting beliefs, and all kind of ties together. But I first want to start with I have this new live called Rewired Live, and I'll come on here and I'll teach and I'll talk about different things that I've used and that have helped me along the way. Additionally, I'm excited to break down people's limiting beliefs. So if people submit in the comments something they're struggling with or something the teaching resonated with you, I'd be happy to do some live breakdowns on people's limiting beliefs or XYZ. But I would like to start before I get into the built framework. I have it a little visual here for you. How did I even come to this? So we started a wholesale real estate business in college, which is basically like the marketing and sales for flippers. So like if people who flip houses, like we go find the deals for them. We cold call, we do all the stuff. And I thought that's what I wanted, right? Like I thought that would do it, like making money from that and building this big business and doing all this stuff. There's a really good book from David Brooks called The Second Mountain, which basically talks about earlier in your career you start uh, with one mountain. It's like your first mountain, and you think that's what you want. It's self-serving usually. Like I'm gonna do this, this, and this, and you get to the top of that mountain, and you're like, yeah, this isn't it. But then you see that there's a second mountain. And the shift into the second mountain is something that's more serving others, right? And that's the second mountain you begin to climb. And you really realize there's no top of the mountain. That's the other thing. It's all about the becoming. It's not about what you get in achieving your goals, but about what you become. My dad, shout out dad, sent me that quote the other day. And I'd already thought about that, but it really put it into words for me. Um, but yeah, I mean, we built this, over seven-figure business and this big business and all this stuff, and we're making money and XYZ. And the whole process was miserable for me, honestly. Like out of college, graduated, had to go work a second job to get it, bar backing when I started. And then every day was like not peaceful. It was not a good existence. And I thought that's just how it had to be. You had to struggle and you had to strain, you had to stress all day long and worry. And I'd go to bed just like worried about stuff. I'd wake up worried about stuff. I was constantly in my head, just like pushed to the breaking point so many times for years and years and years and years. I just pushed to the breaking point, right? And after like you get some amount of success in the business, you're like, okay, well, the business can't be it. It can't be the answer to my problems. So what are the answer to my problems? And the more I dove into this work and Michael Singer and Eckhart Tolle and I got Course in Miracles now and all this stuff, I realized that it's the inner work that matters. It doesn't matter what you're going to accomplish externally. It really doesn't, because there'll always be something else. The greatest illusion that we ever face is that we think that things in our external environment are going to make us feel okay on the inside. And that's why we chase. That's why we chase jobs and titles and money and relationships and traveling and all these things outside of us. But really, it's a decision internally you need to make to decide that you are enough. And then everything becomes an expression, an overflow. You're not doing anything to add things to yourself. You're already whole on the inside. You're doing it because you want to give it away. And that's why I'm doing this right here. Like I just do this because I love to get on here and talk about this stuff. And I know that it's impactful and it's going to help people. So I have to put myself out there and talk about this stuff more on social media and going live and doing all the things. Um, So that's how I got to this place pretty much. And my second mountain is basically talking about this stuff, right? Um, and and putting it into this practical framework. So the Built for Impact program, I've been thinking about this probably for the last like 9 months. Okay, it started with um, the acronym BUILT, and at first it was break limiting beliefs, upgrade your operating system, integrate high income skills, leverage systems, and transform or something, right? But it just didn't sit right, and I had that acronym, and I thought like I knew this was the path because I love talking and teaching and motivating, doing all this stuff, right? Um, and then I sat on for a few months, and then when I was in Argentina, we were traveling around. That's the other thing too. Like the business has been great. We've been blessed to be able to travel and do all things. Um, I realized, hey, no, it's imagine your future, let go of the past, transcend into the new identity, right? And it's this spiral upwards. There's this huge aha moment. And for the past 4 months, I've been literally channeling these messages. What does that mean? It means that like out of nowhere, I'll just get this stream of thought and boom, just like write down everything I can possibly think about for the B pillar, for the U, for the I, for the L, for the T, for the built frameworks, right? So breaking limiting beliefs, upgrading your operating system, imagining your future, letting go of the past, transcending into the new version of yourself. So I would sit there, I'd be with Isaiah in the Uber. He'd be like, what are you doing? I'd be like on my phone for 15 minutes, like without even looking up, just furiously writing down this stuff. He's like, "Were you just writing down a note the whole time?" And I was like, "Yeah." It was like a download. I just had this idea. Like that's how they come. When you're in more of a creative state and you're out of your fight or flight state of being, and you're in that relaxed creative state, these ideas just come to you out of nowhere, right? Out of nowhere. It's like this stream of consciousness, stream of thought, and you can't help but just write it down. And you'll notice that the more that you're out of fear and stress and worry and all this stuff that will come up. Um, but over time, I put it all together, right? And then I really started to study it and realize like, hey, all these books and stuff that I've been studying, what relates to each of the pillars. And I started to drag in stuff and I wrote out this whole thing, right? And now I went through the whole thing and I refined it. Now I'm having my executive assistant put it into a presentation, which is going to be the foundation for the Built for Impact community, which is going to be a school group, but it's going to have the whole Built for Impact program laid out. But it's been a process. It's been like a year process of putting this all together. But now I'm just being more public about it and teaching about it on social media and all the things, and hopefully people can get little key takeaways from it. So without further ado, let me get into the built framework. So I have this. I think you guys will be able to see this. Um, See, it's small for me, but if I go like this, you can see it, I think. So, and I'm just going to talk about it anyways, but the built method, right? So it's 5 steps, and you're constantly doing these things. It's not like, you do it once and you're transformed. No, you're constantly becoming the best version of yourself to the day you die, right? And it's an everyday thing, it's an every week thing, an every month thing, and you're constantly transcending or spiraling up into this next level of yourself. So the first pillar, break limiting beliefs, because everything starts with the belief. So here, this is a little overview, then I'll kind of dive into it deeper. But your beliefs shape your reality. This pillar helps you notice the old thoughts and patterns that hold you back and replace them with empowering ones. When you change your beliefs, you change your identity and results. Everything stems from that. Everything stems from identity, really, self-image. So on that, understanding where limiting beliefs come from, identifying yours, and beginning to install new empowering truths. So it's essentially the main part of break limiting beliefs is this is an earth-shattering concept. Okay. You are not your thoughts or emotions. When Michael Singer said it to me, I was just like, that was a paradigm shift for me. So you got to think about, what is your paradigm on life? That's the first thing that needs to shift, is your paradigm. What's a paradigm? We all used to think the earth was flat. We used to think that we couldn't run under a 4-minute mile. Those are all paradigms. And we used to think the earth was at the center of the universe, I think. But once those are broken, everyone begins to see the world in a new light, right? 4-minute mile, no one could break the 4-minute mile. And then the guy, Roger Bannister, whatever his name was, he broke the 4-minute mile. Now everyone can break the 4-minute mile. How is that even possible? One person breaks it because the paradigm shifted, the belief shifted. Everyone now believe. That just goes to show the power of belief, right? Not to mention the placebo effect, where people are literally taking a fake pill and getting real tangible biological results. I mean, how do you even explain that? And Joe Dispenza has these crazy seminars where he will, Dr. Joe Dispenza, if you don't know him, you should look him up. But people come into his thing and cure their cancer. Like you can't even make it up. People will go in their freaking wheelchairs and they're walking. It's like people through meditation and through mindfulness are literally reprogramming their mind and their body. It's that powerful, the power of belief. So breaking your limiting beliefs is the first thing is you are not your awareness. Why is this important? Because it creates a space, it creates a separation. So when you understand that you are not your thoughts or emotions, when these limiting beliefs come up, these negative emotions, these negative thoughts, you can identify them, but you separate yourself from them. Oh, you're never going to make it. You'll never be this position. You'll never amount to what you want or make a certain amount of money to do this or that. You identify that thought as it's not truth. It's just a thought. It's just an object of the awareness. So just like a flashlight shines on a park bench, the light of the flashlight shines on a park bench. That doesn't mean that the flashlight is the park bench, right? That's not what that means. Same thing with your awareness. Your awareness is observing your thoughts and emotions in the same way. So it allows you to decouple from that and then let it go. It allows you to let the thought go, let the emotion go, and then choose ones that are in alignment with your new identity. And that's the work right there. It's a muscle. Your awareness is like a muscle. And every time that you catch that old belief or that old negative emotion that you don't want and you choose to let it go, it's like a bicep curl for the mind, right? We always go to the gym, but we never go to the gym of the mind. But that's the essence of everything. And it's more difficult at first. And the biggest thing is forgiving yourself too. When I first started doing this work, this inner work of like noticing these limiting beliefs and these negative thought patterns and these older emotions, and I would be back in it, I would be so hard on myself. Like, what the hell are you doing, man? Like you screwed up, and I'd be down on myself. But that in and of itself is a negative frequency. We can't be doing that, right? We just have to recognize, hey, I got back off track. I got off track. That's okay. Let me get back on track. Let me get back into the frequency that I want to be, the emotion, right? Let me get back into the thought patterns that I want. So understanding that you are the awareness, you are not your thoughts or emotion, but the awareness that observes them is huge. Thoughts and emotions are objects to the awareness, just like a phone is. Okay, just like a water bottle is. It's no different, and that gives you the power. Viktor Frankl talks about it in A Man's Search for Meaning. We can't control our environment or the events of our environment, but we can control our response to them. He basically said there's a space between stimulus and response, meaning an event happens, your response, there's a space in between there. Okay. So stimulus could be negative thought. Stimulus could be event that makes you angry or frustrated or guilty. And then there's a space and then there's your response. So you got to recognize that. And the more that you begin to think like this is what Joe Dispenza calls becoming conscious. When you fall back into the old patterns, right, of negativity and fear and doubt and worry, that's like unconscious behavior. That's what your body's programmed to be running on based upon your past thoughts, emotions, and XYZ. So you are not your thoughts or emotions. That's absolutely huge. Understanding your paradigm. What is your paradigm of the world? And understanding that, hey, maybe it doesn't have to be that way. My old paradigm of the of entrepreneurship is that I had to struggle and strain, and it was stressful and it sucked, and I had to grind my way to success. No, that's not how it has to be. Now, where did I get that programming? Who knows? I mean, there's a big a big thing around hustle culture. We got hustle, 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 which I agree with. You do have to do the work. I'd like to reframe that around focus culture because it's really not about hustling and straining. It's about being consistent over a long period of time. That's what it's about. You have to be focused, right? The wholesale business to get to $1.5 million in revenue this year took 3 years of consistent effort every single day. Okay. So it's not necessarily about struggling and straining because that doesn't necessarily produce more results for me. If I can come into work now, be at peace, be relaxed, and people actually do better. Because especially when they're getting on calls with me and they're getting in meetings with me, and my aura is just different, and I'm at relaxed and I'm at peace, right? They're dealing with whatever, and they come in and they feel that energy, and it puts them in a good state of mind frequency going out into the day as well. So you're the baseline. You have to be the anchor, especially as a leader. But when I'm in this relaxed state of mind, I can think better. I can think better. It's not that challenges don't arise. Challenges arise, but I instantly know how to take care of them. I instantly know how to figure it out because I'm shutting off that sympathetic. Hopefully I get this right. The sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight system, it shuts off your prefrontal cortex. So you literally cannot think when you're in that state of being. Your fear and worry. You can't think about anything. So it's actually more responsible for you to be at peace than to be stressing about things, because you can think clearer, you can execute better, and you're going to get better results. So that's that paradigm, break limiting beliefs. Other thing is understanding that everything is energy in the universe. That's the foundation for everything. You have to understand quantum physics. Okay. So everything is energy. That's been proven. Einstein talked about it. E equals mc squared. Energy equals matter. Sped up at the speed of light, matter just turns to energy. Boom. That's it. Right? Phone, water bottle, guitar. It's all energy. It's all energy just vibrating really slowly. So if everything's energy, so are our thoughts, so are our emotions. And the observer effect, Bernadette loves Joe Dispenza. Joe Dispenza's great. I need to go to one of his retreats. That would be definitely the best thing to do. But everything quantum physics. Where we at? Quantum physics. So the biggest thing is the observer effect, I think. So the observer effect in quantum physics tells us that if we place our awareness on a potential future outcome, it begins to collapse into matter. How do they know? Because they observed electrons and energy on a micro scale, and as soon as awareness, however they measured that, I think it's like the double slit experiment or something, but I'm not a physicist. But as soon as they put their awareness on the energy, it collapsed into matter, right? And then when they took their awareness off of it, it was everywhere. So the same thing works in our reality. I think where people get lost is, so how are you collapsing things into your reality? Anytime that you think about something in your mind, like a vision or something that you want, that's you placing your awareness on a potential future outcome. It is possible because you can think of it. Now, how it manifests into reality is you have to keep that vision in your mind long enough for it to come into reality. And that's the place where most people fall off. It's like, oh, I want it now. Well, no, that's not how the universe works. You want to be this big business owner, or you want to chase your dreams. The universe, you're working on the universe's timing. So it's going to be delivered to you through synchronicities over time, but you got to have the faith and the consistency and the focus to hold it in your mind long enough. That's why Bob Proctor and all these people are like, write it down on a card. Write it down on a card so you can keep it in your mind, because your awareness is the creative force of the universe. Consciousness is. Where your attention goes, energy flows. That's how it works. So if you understand that your thoughts are creating reality, right? Or your awareness is whatever the awareness puts its attention on is actually creating your reality, and you know that you are not your thoughts or emotions, then you can begin to select the thoughts and emotions that are in alignment with the identity that you want, with the reality that you want, and you have that be your focus, right? And over time, I'm kind of just going to get into like all of these because they all kind of tie together. So over time, we'll get into you begin to reprogram your body. You upgrade your operating system. What does that mean? Every time that you have a thought, you trigger a thought, it signals a neurotransmitter in your brain, which is going to release a chemical signature or a neuropeptide, which goes down to a hormonal center in your body. And it begins to program the body to want that emotion. So why it's so difficult for us to change, this is what Joe Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, is about, is because we have chemically conditioned our body through certain thought patterns to want to feel certain emotions. So if you're feeling guilty thoughts and fearful and anxious thoughts for years on end, your body's chemically addicted. The hormonal sites in your body have actually adapted to want more of that chemical. Just like a coffee drinker, you haven't drank coffee in a little bit, you have one cup and you get the buzz. But after 3 months of that, you need to drink 3 cups of coffee to get the same buzz. The same thing for your body. You think fearful thoughts for 2 months, right? The centers begin to adapt and they fiend for more, like an addict. So it's going to fiend. It's going to send signals to your brain to want to think more fearful thoughts, and it's just going to keep It's going to keep pulling that chemical out. And it's going to want you to think negative thoughts so it can get that. So when you try to switch your thinking, like, oh, I'm going to be grateful for the day, and consciously, like, I'm going to be grateful, and you go into the day, and then 30 minutes later, when you stop thinking about it, you're being negative about something because your body's conditioned for that. It's conditioned. So that's breaking the habit of being yourself, is thinking new thoughts, which create a new emotion, which reprograms your subconscious mind, which is the body. And I like to say every thought and emotion is a drop in the bucket of the new identity. A drop in the bucket. That's the key. It's a drop in the bucket. So you got to keep doing it every single day, every single moment of every single day. And you keep going, you keep going, you keep going. And then you will notice your baseline kind of start to shift. You'll have that old self just dragging you, pulling you back down, right? It'll be trying to, it's like cinder blocks on your feet in the middle of the ocean, but you just got to keep going and keep going and keep going and get in an environment where people help you out. All right. So let's look at this real quick. Let's see if I can actually pull this up while I read this. Oh, look at that. Great. So your operating system is how you think, feel, and act each day. Upgrading it means raising your internal state, staying centered, and choosing elevated emotions so life mirrors that energy back. So what does that mean? Build a daily system to regulate your energy, embody your future self, and live from a high frequency emotional state. There we go. Upgrade your operating system. So I call this the life loop, but your thoughts lead to certain emotions, which lead to certain actions, which create certain behaviors, or you can say lead to certain like behaviors or tendency, which create actions, which create results. So thoughts, emotions, behaviors, actions, results. If you change that thought, you change the whole sequence, the whole domino effect. You change the thought, it's going to program a new emotion. It's going to dictate different behaviors, which leads to different actions, which is going to lead to different results. So that's how you literally tap into new results. Now, people talk about raising your frequency. What does that mean? That was always the most woo-woo thing to me of all time. I didn't understand what that meant. Like, oh, you're going to raise your frequency? What does that even mean? It means that your frequency is really like your energy. It's like a state of being. When you're at a certain energy level, you are tapped into a radio station. That's what I want you to think about. You're tapped into a radio frequency. So when you're at the radio station of fear, doubt, and worry, that's creating certain thoughts, which is generating certain emotions, which is driving certain behaviors, certain actions, and certain results, right? So if say you're a salesperson and you're just scared, like you're not confident in yourself, you don't think you can close deals, those are your thoughts about yourself. What's going to lead to kind of like fearful, anxious thoughts. Your behavior is then going to be timid. It's going to be reserved, and your actions are going to be sloppy. They're not going to be executed well, and you're not going to get sales as a salesperson because you're tapped into that radio station of fear, right? Um, I think lust is a really good example. The frequency of lust, you hang around guys in the frequency of lust, all they want to talk about is women. That's it. That's all they talk about. That's all they do. They go on the weekend to go see if they can talk to women and do this and that and that. It's because they're on that frequency. That's all they do. They just talk about that. And what happens? Those are the emotions they're feeling, which is driving their behavior, which is driving their actions to go drink on the weekend and talk to women all weekend. That's what they're doing. They're on the lust frequency. So, but when you elevate your frequency to love and peace and joy and abundance, if you look at these things on a graph, let's actually see if we can. I'm not gonna break it up right now. You can look it up. The hertz or the frequency levels of different emotions from like love all the way down to love is not the highest actually. It's one of the highest. Love all the way down to like fear. You'll see like fear, lust, shame, guilt, doubt is like a lower frequency. And as you go up, it gets higher and higher and higher. It has to do with the chakras. You have the root chakra, right? Then you have the sacral, which is like root chakra is like survival energy, and it's like the lowest. It's the densest energy because you're just trying to survive on this energy, this plane. Sacral chakra energy is more creative. It's a little bit higher. It's like your creative expression. You have the solar plexus, which is like willpower, drive. The heart, which is like all love. You have the throat chakra, which is what I'm doing right now, which is self-expression. You have the third eye, right, which is like intuition, intuitive downloads. And then you have the crown chakra, which means that you're connected to your purpose. But like right now, my throat chakra is open because I have the courage to sit up here and do this message right now, right? And talk about this truth, right? And talk about this, which the old me, the 1.0 version of me a year ago, be like, oh God, I can't talk about this stuff. People are gonna think I'm weird or crazy or whatever the case, whatever limiting belief I had, right? But because I've raised my frequency out of that fear, because if I was operating in the fear frequency, I would never have the thought of like, oh, I should go live and talk about, the built method. And I would not have the emotion to be excited for it. And I wouldn't be able to deliver the message like I am right now. I wouldn't be taking the actions and posting YouTube content and all that stuff if my frequency was in a fear frequency. I'd never take action. But because I'm in this like elevated creative and I just want to give it away, I'm able to do those things. So think about your life loop. Your thoughts create emotions, which create Behaviors drive behaviors and actions and ultimately give you new results. So it's not woo woo at all. If you raise your energy and you're excited, you're like, yes, let's go out and do it. You're going to get new thoughts. Thoughts going to come into your head out of nowhere. You're going to have these excited emotions. Your behaviors are going to be decisive. You're going to get after it. You're going to take different actions and you're going to literally get different results. That's why changing your beliefs and your thoughts matter. And really, it's not changing beliefs and thoughts, but it's, selecting different ones. Now, to get these abundant creative thoughts, these empowering thoughts, you do have to raise your energy every single day. So you raise your energy, then new thoughts come in, and you can choose those and begin to recondition the body by putting your awareness and your attention on those new thoughts and those new emotions. So that's upgrading your operating system. Now, you need to, throughout the day, you're going to fall back into the old self, right? And we're at 26 minutes. I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to talk for that long. Obviously, I'm able to talk. We're only on you. So little practices throughout the day help you get back on track. Now, a big part of upgrading your operating system is understanding your nervous system. Okay, your nervous system is like this. I'd love to like look up a picture of the nervous system. I'm not gonna do this because it's gonna get me out of my flow. But the nervous system is a whole branch of obviously nerves and things that it's really like the bridge between the energetic world and the physical world, the quantum world and the physical world. That's how message and communication is translated. So a lot of times, as you're raising your frequency and you're letting go of these lower level emotions, you get into these higher frequency states of being that your body's not used to. It's like a circuit breaker. It's like you're putting a bunch of electricity through a circuit breaker that's not upgraded. It's on like a 50 amp when you need to be at a 200 amp. So you need to upgrade your body's ability to hold a higher amount of energy. Like you want to go be a billionaire or you want to be a millionaire, you know how much energy you're gonna have to hold to be able to be a millionaire or to have $10 million or to have some massive impact or do whatever you want. It's a higher state of energy than you are right now. So you need to condition your body to be able to hold that. And a lot of times your nervous system and your ego is designed to protect you. So anything that's unfamiliar, that's not what it's used to, even if you're used to pain and suffering and doubt and worry and shame and all that stuff, if your body's not used to it, even when you try to elevate into higher emotions or more abundant thoughts, it's going to drag you back. Nope, that's not familiar. That's not safe. Because that's how our ego and our mind were designed to help us survive, not to thrive. Because when we were walking through the woods a few thousand years ago and something rustled in the bushes, we'd have to think the worst case scenario, or we'd be killed. We could be killed by the tiger. But that's not the reality we live in now. I mean, 99.9% of the time, you're not going to die. So we have to be able to um, regulate our nervous system in those situations. So, for example, say you are going to a meetup or you're going to public speak or you're going to do something, you're going to feel that energy in your body, right? Oh my gosh, I'm not used to this. This is a higher level of energy than I'm used to. Now, what would I do in the past? I almost freshman year of college, I had to do a presentation and I blacked out like in the presentation. It was actually crazy. No one actually ever said anything to me about it. There's like 70 people in there. My legs were literally shaking in my suit as I was delivering the speech, like when it was my part. And I literally blacked out while I was talking. I was that nervous because I felt that energy in my body and I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, this feels so weird. Like this is crazy. Like I'm scared, all this stuff. And that's also why I really didn't succeed as a hockey player. Like I played hockey my whole life and I had the skill to like go to make it, pretty far, but my mentality was horrible. I could not deal with pressure. I could not deal with the mental aspect of it. And when I felt pressure before games, I didn't know what to do with that. But now because I know I'm not my emotions and I know I'm not my thoughts, I can recognize, hey, this is just what happens before I do something. Even if I go to a meetup now, I get a little bit of like butterflies in my stomach, but I don't consume myself in it. I don't get lost in that feeling. I just kind of observe it as a distance and I go, oh yeah, I'm a little nervous. Yep, that happens when I go to a meetup or that happens when I'm about to speak or before I start this live or whatever, right? It just happens. And you're able to decouple yourself from it, which is the biggest thing. So regulating your nervous system, the breath is the best way to do that. So the breath is just super powerful. It's super powerful. Like if you slow your breath down, even box breathing is the best thing that I do. So it's 4-second inhale, 4-second hold, and then 4-second exhale, 4-second hold. A lot of people use this. Navy SEALs use it. Military uses it. I'm sure athletes use it. But when you slow your breath down, you literally, like, if you're in this fight or flight state, you can kick you just feel it. If you do box breathing for like 4 minutes when you're all worked up, you'll just feel your brain kick down like 3 gears. It's absolutely incredible, and it's free, and it's super easy to do. So the breath is the easiest way when you're pushing, you're trying to raise your energy throughout the day, and you're pushing yourself into new circumstances, because this new version of you, this new identity, is going to require you to go into places that you've never been before. Why? Because it's a new version of yourself. So you're going to be uncomfortable. You're going to be uncomfortable. That's part of it. But you have to understand that fear is an illusion. How do you know it's an illusion? Because the second you step into anything, the fear just dissolves away. That's what it is. You're scared to go to the meetup. You're scared to speak. You're scared to have a phone call. Scared to have a conversation. The second you're actually doing those things, everything just melts away. It just melts away. That's just the reality of it. So, um, taking action, being comfortable. As you push yourself into this new identity, you have to use the breath to rewire yourself. So, upgrade your operating system is really about the life loop, and then also um, your nervous system, and kind of understanding that. Also, like reprogramming your subconscious mind. Um, your subconscious mind is basically 95% of your programmed habits, behaviors, identities, all that stuff. So, most of it's programmed before you're 7 years old. Okay. So we have four levels, four brainwave states. Okay. We have beta. That's what you're in right now. You're thinking. Maybe you're an alpha if you're snoozing a little bit on this, because I'm not interested enough. But beta is like analytical, and you're trying to think and you're trying to do things, right? It's actually high, mid, and low beta. But alpha is kind of when you're daydreaming. Alpha is kind of like you're kind of dozing off in the distance. You ever been driving and you pass like three exits, you're like, wow, I wasn't even paying attention to my driving. That's so unsafe. I don't know how I did that. But your subconscious mind just kind of is running the show there. But that's alpha. Maybe you're daydreaming, you're kind of relaxed. And that's the kind of gateway into the subconscious mind, because you're half kind of analytical and you're half receptive. Theta brainwave states, which are slower, that means your body's completely off, but your mind is awake. And that's where you can really start to reprogram these patterns and beliefs that you have instilled into your body. And then delta is like deep sleep. Now, 0 to 7 years old, you're in theta. You are in straight theta. Your analytical mind doesn't even develop until you're like 9 to 12 years old. So everything that you're like a computer program, you're like the world's greatest computer program from the ages of 0 to 7, taking in every belief, every situation, every identity, every circumstance as the truth. You weren't able to sit there and be like, nope, I don't agree with this, or this, that doesn't actually make sense. Why would I ever want to believe that? You don't get to choose that, right? Your family, your parents, your friends, your school, everything literally programmed you like a computer from 0 to 7 to be who you are today, unless you've undone that programming. So whatever you believe about life needs to be hard, or I'm not worthy of the relationship, or this always happens to me, or XYZ, I'm a victim, and da, 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 whatever it is, it's all programming. That's the real villain here, is your old programming. And it wasn't your fault either, but it is your responsibility to change it and to be the creator of your reality instead of the victim. Because hey, if you want to fight for your limiting beliefs, congratulations. You get to keep them. You win if that's what you want. But at the end of the day, you can do the work to change it. So it doesn't matter about what happened to you. You had the worst life, the most terrible life. You were the worst person. So many things happened to you. Yeah, it's messed up. It's effed up. I'm not going to say it's okay or that it wasn't hard for you. But where are we now? We're here in today. And you can take the responsibility to choose to change these things. That's what it is. So these subconscious programs, they run everything in our life, and that's the whole work. Is reprogram the inner world to so your 95% of what you're doing is automatic. It's abundant. It is grateful thoughts. It's joyous thoughts. Because how do you know what your current subconscious programming is? This is how you know. You want to change, and you say, I want to be positive. I'm always negative. I want to be positive. Okay, great. In 20 minutes, when you stop consciously thinking about being positive, if you start being negative again, that's your subconscious programming. That's your below the conscious mind programming. How do you know? Because you're not consciously focused on being positive anymore. And what pops up? Your programming, negativity, doubt, worry, fear, lack, all it's popping up. So as you begin to reprogram yourself and you're doing the work and new thoughts and new emotions and all this stuff, you will notice that the thoughts that pop up on autopilot start to support you. You're like, how freaking awesome is this? I'm not even thinking about it. And these thoughts start to encourage you and motivate you and do all these things. So that's upgrading your operating system. I Where are we at? Let's go into I. So imagine your new self, visualization. So everything starts in the imagination. You visualize your desired future with clarity and emotion until you can feel it as real. That vision begins guiding your choices, ideas, and opportunities. So what we need to do is create a clear mental movie of your future self and generate the emotional charge that attracts that reality. Okay. Let me quick water break. Actually, protein. Little protein shake. Did some hot yoga this morning. Jesus, I've only done yoga like 6 or 7 times. But I signed up for the Fierce class. It was Yoga Fierce. Hot Yoga Fierce. I was like, I don't know what that means, but it made complete sense in retrospect. I get in there as like a super advanced class. She's like ripping through all the shavasanas and the movements and all this stuff. I had no idea what I was doing. It was actually a really good practice in um, being uncomfortable in the uncomfortable. I sat right at the freaking front of the class, right at the front of the class. I was like, yeah, I'll sit at the front. No idea what I was doing. So I was looking at everyone, I was looking at her. And in the easy yoga classes, they show you all the movements. She's up there and she shows you an XYZ. This one, she was like walking around, she was just shouting stuff out. I was like, okay. But I was able to really kind of remain calm in it and just be like, okay, what am I going to do? I'm just looking at other people, following them. If I got messed up, I didn't sweat it. I was like, whatever. And I kind of just got back on track. So it's interesting. But I say that because now I have my whey protein shake, grass fed, little creatine, mental and physical performance. All right. So imagine your future. So you've broken the limiting beliefs. You've upgraded your operating system. You're raising your energy. You're regulating your nervous system. You're doing all the things. Now you have all this power. Now you got to imagine where do you want to direct it, right? Joe Dispenza says your thought is the electrical signal out into the quantum field. Your emotion is the magnet that draws the experience in. How do we know that statement's actually true from a quantum physics standpoint? Is because we know from quantum entanglement that particles are connected beyond space and time. So basically, if you ring a tuning fork in LA, tuning fork is like a little metal thing and you hit it and it plays a tone. You ring it in LA, you have another tuning fork in New York. That tuning fork in New York is going to vibrate instantaneously at the same frequency. It's not like, oh, the frequency has to travel across all the states to get to New York. It's like, boom, they're both ringing the second you do the one in LA. Because that's basically a quantum leap. So a quantum leap in physics is when an electron, right, the energy of the electron of an atom disappears at one energy level and it just reappears at another energy level. It's not like, oh, we track the electron going from here to here. It's like boom, boom, right? So that's what visualization does. And when you raise your energy and upgrading your operating system, you raise that energy into the new self. You're quantum leaping into that new version of you. You are that person at the energetic level. You just have to wait for reality to catch up. That's one of the biggest things is like the gap of becoming is, and we have this whole thing about imposter syndrome. Which is the opposite of how things work. It's like you want the external world to tell you who you are internally. It makes no sense. It's like, okay, you want to be a famous musician. You want the world to tell you you're a famous musician before you're a famous musician in your head? It's never going to work. It's never going to work. You got to be that person in your head first. So you start thinking the thoughts of that person. You start taking the actions of a world famous musician. And then if you act enough times in the world as a world famous musician, and you practice and you play enough pieces and you put enough things on YouTube, guess what's going to happen? You will become world famous. You don't become world famous and then have the identity of being a musician. It makes absolutely zero sense. So imposter syndrome is just an identity gap. It's an identity lag. You don't feel like you are that thing, which is ridiculous because you can be whatever you want to be. So imagining your future allows you to sit down and really visualize. So visualization is powerful. The imagination, right? Creativity, everything that's ever been created in this world started in someone's imagination. Think about that. Think about that. The plane, the train, the car, the computer, the phone, clothes, this chair, the guitar. Everything was once created in someone's mind, right? They imagine in their mind, they put their awareness on it, and they put their awareness on it long enough and it collapsed into reality. That's what happened. So you can do the same thing with visualization. The point of visualization is to sit down disconnect from this physical world and activate the world of your imagination and imagine who you want to be. Imagine who that person is. How are they living their life? What are they driving? Where do they live? How do they feel? How do they think? Really fantasize and romanticize that version of yourself. And in the beginning, it feels fake. It feels like, oh, this is stupid. This isn't doing anything. But hey, guess what? You do it enough, you're going to believe it. Method actors who are playing, they're training to play a role, and they practice being that person in real life to really get into the character, right? And then eventually in real life, some people just like, it's like Heath Ledger, the guy who killed himself, right? Of Joker. He was like he had to be Joker in his everyday life. He forgot that he was even Heath Ledger, and he literally killed himself. Like that's how freaking powerful it is. So even if you don't feel, when you're visualizing, you don't feel like this future version of you is real, you keep doing it, right? And we really visualize, you do it in the beginning of the day, you do it at the end of the day to just put it in your brain of like what you want to be. And Hebb's law in neuroscience tells us that neurons that fire together wire together. So as you visualize a future identity or a potential future outcome, and you begin to rewire your neural connections and your synaptic connections, and completely rewire your brain and body for that new version of yourself. So it becomes easier to be that person. So if you think about every time you think a new thought, signals a neurotransmitter, releases a neuropeptide, which is a chemical signature, reprograms the body, the hormones in the body to feel certain emotions. If you want to reprogram yourself, and every single time you do that is only a drop in the bucket, if you visualize, you're putting more drops in the bucket, just more reps basically without actually having to do it in real life. But you can visualize anything, like you're going to do a presentation, you're going to do a sales call, you got to have a difficult conversation. Visualization is super powerful. And they did a study with a group of basketball players and three groups of basketball players. One practice free throws. They were studying, can we improve people's free throws with different training methods? The first one was they physically threw free throws for 3 weeks. The second people did it only in their mind. Only in their mind did they practice throwing free throws. If they messed up, they'd correct it in their mind and they would do it again. Third group didn't practice any free throws. At the end of the 3 weeks, the first group improved like 23%, which is the physical people. The second group improved like 22%, who was just in their mind. And then the third group didn't improve at all because they didn't practice. But the mind, they improved just as much, essentially, as it's the physical world. So that goes to show that your brain doesn't know the difference between a vividly imagined reality. What are you talking about, please? Your brain doesn't know the difference between a visually imagined reality and the physical reality that you're in. So you can begin to reprogram yourself through visualization who you want to be. So I'm doing that constantly, visualization, like all the time. Like I'm just in the morning, if I'm in the shower, I'm just like thinking, like just fantasizing about like what you want, what your life to be like. And it eventually just becomes more real than anything else. That's kind of like the birth of this whole Built for Impact thing. And at once it was kind of just like a seedling. I was like, oh yeah, Built for Impact is pretty cool. But then over time, I was like, no, this is real. Like this is a thing. And then it just is. You just bring it into reality. All right, so let go of the past. Oh, this is my favorite one probably because I think I've had the most challenges with this. This is like run my life. This is one of my favorite ones to talk about. But you can't create a new future while carrying old emotional weight. This pillar teaches you to release fear, guilt, anger, and old stories so you can return to peace and alignment. What we need to do is learn to release old emotions, forgive yourself, and move energy through your body instead of holding on to it. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's all of what Michael Singer talks about, basically, in all of his books, letting go. And pretty much anyone for that matter. Jesus, the Buddha, Michael Singer, Eckhart Tolle. What does it mean to let go of the past? So the reason that we suffer so much is because, again, remember, you are your thoughts. You are not your thoughts or emotions. You're the awareness observing them. But when these negative thoughts come in, okay, or an event happens and it triggers an angry response, our awareness is getting lost in the energy of that anger, or it's getting lost in the thought of doubt or fear, and it's consuming you. And a negative thought pops up at 9 a.m. on Monday. Oh, that presentation, like I didn't do as well as I wanted on the presentation. I didn't do as well as I wanted to. It was 10 a.m. on Monday. you think about it all day long. Oh my God. And you're guilty and you feel shame. And that is leading to that emotion. And you're holding on to the thought, though. That's what you're doing. By continuing to replay it in your head and hold on to that emotion, you're holding on to the emotion. Why are you holding on to it? It already happened. It already happened. Let it go. It doesn't mean that we don't feel emotions as human beings, but it means that we have to let them go as they come in, right? So you feel the emotion, anger, fear, doubt, worry, whatever it is, you feel it. You realize that you're the awareness observing it. You are not anger, you are experiencing anger. That's the difference. You are not guilty or you are not sad, you are experiencing sadness. You're not depressed, you're experiencing depression. That's what it is. So when you recognize that, you letting go is a muscle. You practice letting go. And it's easier said than done. But again, it's one of those things every single day. And I get it, it's tough. You're pissed off, you're angry, you're frustrated, whatever. That emotion feels more real than anything in your whole world. I promise you. You can let it go. And the breath is one of the most important tools. The breath to be able to let that go. So you breathe and I do it all the time now. Like I'll be in a meeting at work, XYZ, or something happens and it triggers me and it makes me angry. Anger is a big emotion I had to deal with, but it made me angry. And then I kind of like, as I'm talking to the person in the back of my mind, I slip back into my awareness and I'm like, oh, why are you so angry about the situation? Like, what is it about the situation that made you so angry? And then I realized, hey, it's just energy. Anger is just energy. I'm going to let it go. And then guess what happens when you let it go? You return to peace. That's it. Because peace is your baseline level of being. Peace and love, right? Love is the Course of Miracles talks about it. Love is like is all there is in the universe. There's love, and then the exact opposite is fear. So we can either live in love or fear. But the reason that we're suffering is because we're holding on to these emotions, and all we have to do is let them go. That's all we got to do. It's like carrying around a freaking massive, heavy backpack, and you're just like, oh gosh, this backpack's so heavy, and you're just complaining about it and all this stuff. It's like, hey, you can just take the backpack off, just drop it. Don't carry it around. How about that? And that's letting go. Just dropping the freaking backpack. But we're so just holding on to stuff and this and that, and and the other thing too is not even negative emotions, but we hold on to positive things that happen too. Like you just went to a cool concert or you had this great experience. You don't want it to go. And then it goes and you're like, oh my gosh, I want that back. Because you're trying to hold on to the experience instead of being present and enjoying it while it happens and then letting go when it doesn't. So letting go of the past is huge. And as you step into this new version of yourself, that old you is just going to keep trying to drag you back. It's going to be dragging you back. And you got to practice your awareness and just practice letting it go ultimately. Um, cool. Letting go of the past. So some of the best books you can read about that on are The Untethered Soul. That would be the number one I recommend. Untethered Soul, that's going to help you out. But all of Michael Singer's books, The Surrender Experiment, where he literally surrendered to the flow of life's events, which is a wild concept, for 40 years. And he did all this stuff. He built like $1 billion medical device company. It's never in his intentions. Pretty wild story. And then Living Untethered is his newest one, which I think is really, really good as well. So we got to let go of the past. We got to let go of these emotions that are holding us. And then finally, transcend into your 2.0 identity. So this is the full embodiment. You stop operating from lack and start living as your highest self, grounded, peaceful, purposeful, and overflowing with energy you want to share with the world. So fully embody your 2.0 identity, living with clarity, confidence, love, purpose, and alignment. So transcending into your 2.0 self, you never get there. That's the other thing too. I have another visual. Maybe I can do it on next week's live, but about you're constantly doing this loop of the 5 pillars, the 5 built pillars, but you're kind of like looping up. So you start here at 1.0 and you're okay, break limiting beliefs, upgrade, imagine, let go, transcend. And now you're here and you break limiting beliefs, you upgrade, you imagine, you let go, and you transcend. And you just keep doing that. And your whole life is pretty much that. You never reach your highest self, but you're always doing that. But when you're in the next, there's definitely checkpoints though. Let's call them mile markers. So when you're at that next major mile marker, you'll recognize it. You'll have a moment of realization when you're like, oh, I can't remember how. Like I can't imagine how much fear and doubt I used to live in. Like I'm not really like that anymore. Like yeah, I still get fearful thoughts. I still doubt myself and stuff sometimes, but I'm so much better than I was. And that's the epiphany. That's a moment when you realize you've transcended into the next level of yourself. And then it starts a whole thing where you're like, well, if I could do that, I wonder what else I could do. And that's it. You at that point, you're built for impact. That's it. You are built for impact because that is just the beginning. And the whole built for impact method and framework isn't meant to be an end result, but is meant to kickstart your journey. It's meant to help you build the habits, reframe your mind, right? Upgrade your system, imagine your future, let go of the past, but help you build the habits that you need to be successful. This is the training ground for the rest of your life, right here, with this method, with these trainings, with these teachings, with all this stuff. It's a training ground for the next part of your life that you are leading from peace and being present in the moment versus being pressured and run by fear and running around and everything is lack and this scarcity. It's everything you need. Everything you need is inside of you. It's right in there. That's what Jesus talked about. That's what the Buddha talked about. That's what everyone talked about. It's all inside you. And when you bite from the apple and think that this external world is where fulfillment comes from, you've lost. You've been bitten. The snake got you because it's not out there. It's in here. It's a state of being. Everything that you want, peace, love, joy, excitement, gratitude. It is a state of being that is cultivated first. Everything else will be added unto you. You got to have some faith, though. You got to have some faith. And the more that you do it, the more that you realize that it's true. That's the biggest thing. So I appreciate you guys. Yeah, every Saturday I'm going to go live. I don't know, 11 a.m. Sounds like a good time. I like going live. It's great. Rewired Live. Appreciate you guys coming out. If you drop in the comments, if people are dealing with certain things, certain limiting beliefs or questions that you have or things that you want to get addressed, I can always address them in the next live. Like I can do a teaching. I can talk about things that people want to hear. I can, yeah, we can do hot seats too, where people come on and we just live break down what are they dealing with and just figure out how to move past it. I can do anonymous lives too. I don't know if people people are self-conscious. They don't want people to know that they're struggling with stuff, even though everyone's struggling with stuff. But yeah, hope everyone has a blessed Saturday and Sunday. Till next time, all the peace, all the power.